The stars shimmered peacefully in the night sky as people across Earth went about their daily lives. No one knew that alien eyes had been watching them for months. The Vulturian Galactic Empire had found Earth by tracking radio signals sent into space over many decades. The Vulturians ruled hundreds of star systems with an iron grip. Their ships were massive, their weapons beyond anything humans had ever made, and their hunger for new worlds never ended. Admiral Krell stood on the bridge of his command ship, looking at the blue planet on his screen. He was tall, with gray skin and eyes that showed no mercy. "Another primitive world," he said to his officers. "They still used fossil fuels and have not even colonized their own moon properly." The officers laughed. Earth would be easy to take. Krell had conquered 12 worlds before. He knew exactly how to break a planet's will to fight. First, he would destroy their satellites, then hit military bases. Finally, he would target just enough cities to force a surrender. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered. "We attack in 3 days." On Earth, life continued normally. In New York, people rushed to work. In Tokyo, families ate dinner. In Lagos, children played in streets. No one knew what was coming. Only a few government telescopes noticed when strange objects began to appear near the moon. But by then it was too late. The attack began at dawn over the Pacific Ocean. The sky lit up as Vulturian ships entered the atmosphere. Within hours, every satellite orbiting Earth went dark. Television, internet, and phone services failed worldwide. Panic spread as people lost contact with loved ones and couldn't access information. World leaders scrambled to understand what was happening. When they finally realized it was an alien invasion, they tried to coordinate a defense. Fighter jets took off from bases around the world, missiles were readied, and soldiers prepared for battle. But Earth's weapons were like toy guns against the Vulturian ships. Jets exploded midair when hit by energy beams. Missiles didn't even reach their targets, disabled by electromagnetic pulses. Military bases were reduced to smoking craters. Admiral Krell watched from orbit, barely paying attention. "Send the ground forces," he said, turning away from the screen to pour himself a drink. "This world will be ours by nightfall." In Washington, D.C., the president gathered with her advisors in an underground bunker. Reports of destruction came in from every continent. "We can't win this fight," the defense secretary said, his face pale. "They're too advanced. We need to save lives now." With heavy hearts, world leaders made the hardest decision they had ever faced. One by one, nations surrendered to save their people from total destruction. Within 3 weeks, Earth was under Vulturian control. Admiral Krell established his headquarters in what was once the United Nations building in New York. He brought in alien administrators to run each continent and placed armed guards in every major city. "This planet has excellent resources," he told his mining director. "Begin operations immediately. I want shipments to the homeworld within a month." The Vulturians were efficient. They built massive mining complexes in the Amazon, Australia's outback, Central Africa, and Siberia. Humans were forced to work in the mines, digging up metals the aliens prized. They took gold and silver, but also metals people had never thought valuable before. Strange elements that Earth scientists had barely studied were particularly important to the invaders. Daily life changed completely. Humans had to follow strict rules. Everyone 16 and older had to work. Food was rationed. Travel between cities required permits. Anyone who protested disappeared. Vulturian patrol ships constantly flew overhead, reminding everyone who was in charge. But far from these watching eyes, deep under the Antarctic ice, one place remained free from Vulturian control. Years before the invasion, Dr. Hannah Kim had established a research facility to study quantum physics. The lab was built into the ice, powered by geothermal energy, and shielded from detection. When the invasion came, the 30 scientists and staff there decided to stay hidden rather than surrender. Dr. Kim was a brilliant physicist who had been exploring how particles could exist in 2 places at once. Her team had made breakthroughs just before the invasion that few other scientists understood. "We're close to something revolutionary," she told her team as they huddled around their main computer. "If we can make it work, it might be our only hope against the Volturians." For weeks after the invasion, they watched terrible news on their stored videos. They saw cities burning and people being rounded up for labor. They saw Admiral Krell announcing Earth was now part of the Volturian Empire. Dr. Kim worked even harder, barely sleeping as she refined her equations. The lab was designed to be self-sufficient, with hydroponic gardens providing food and recycling systems for water and air. They had supplies to last years if needed. While the rest of Earth suffered under alien rule, Dr. Kim's team continued their research in secret. 3 months after the invasion, during a terrible storm that hid any heat signatures from their lab, Dr. Kim achieved what she had been working toward. In a small test chamber, she managed to teleport a metal ball 3 meters across the room. It disappeared from one container and appeared in another instantly. The team celebrated quietly, knowing this was just the beginning. "The Volturians think they know everything about us," Dr. Kim said to her second-in-command, Dr. Jun Park. "But they missed us completely. They think humans are primitive, but they haven't seen what we can really do." Admiral Krell, meanwhile, considered Earth fully conquered. He had already moved on to planning his next invasion of a nearby star system. In his reports to Volturian High Command, he described Earth as secured with minimal resistance, rich in resources, and populated by compliant natives. Not once did he mention checking the frozen continent to the south. Not once did he consider that humans might have technology worth worrying about. As mining operations stripped Earth's resources and humans struggled under alien rule, Dr. Kim's team continued developing their quantum displacement technology in secret. They were building something that would eventually allow humans to fight back in ways the Volturians could never expect. The overlooked lab in Antarctica would prove to be the Empire's greatest mistake, one that would eventually lead to their downfall. 3 years passed under Volturian rule. The aliens had changed Earth completely. Their mining machines cut deep into mountains and forests. Cities now had alien towers where Volturian commanders lived above the humans they controlled. People worked long hours in factories and mines, building ships and digging up metals for their new masters. But deep beneath Antarctica's ice, hidden from alien scanners, hope survived. Dr. Hannah Kim's underground lab had grown larger since the invasion. What started as a small research facility now spread through caves and tunnels. 30 scientists had become nearly 100 people working toward one goal, finding a way to fight back. Dr. Kim rarely slept more than 4 hours a night. Her eyes were tired, but determination kept her going. 3 years of constant work had finally paid off. She stood before her team in the main lab, a small metal cube sitting on the table before her. "Today we make history," she said, adjusting dials on a control panel. "Not just human history, but perhaps galactic history." She pressed a button. The cube glowed briefly, then vanished. On a second table 20 meters away, the same cube appeared instantly. The room erupted in cheers. "Stable quantum displacement," Dr. Kim announced. "True teleportation. Not just moving particles, but solid objects across space without traveling through the space between." This was the breakthrough they had been working toward. In the weeks that followed, they teleported larger objects, machine parts, food supplies, and eventually a small robot. The technology worked flawlessly. Objects disappeared from one place and appeared in another instantly. "The Volturians have faster-than-light travel," Dr. Jun Park said during a planning meeting. "But they still have to actually travel through space. We can jump instantly to any point we can calculate. It's a completely different technology, one they don't have." While Dr. Kim's team perfected teleportation, a quiet rebellion had been growing across Earth. Small resistance groups formed in cities and work camps. Most were caught and punished, but some succeeded in small acts of defiance. One group, led by a woman named Min Lee, specialized in helping people disappear. Min had been a tour guide before the invasion. She knew hidden paths through mountains and forests. Now she used that knowledge to move people past Volturian checkpoints. When she learned about Dr. Kim's facility from a trusted source, she began directing specific people there: engineers, pilots, and scientists who had managed to stay off Volturian lists. The journey to Antarctica was dangerous. Travelers had to avoid Volturian patrols and survive the freezing cold. Min's team created a network of safe houses and secret transportation. They bribed alien guards, forged travel permits, and sometimes simply moved at night when Volturian sensors were less effective. One night, Min arrived at the Antarctic facility with 5 new people. Among them was General Ta Park, once the commander of South Korea's Air Force. The Volturians thought he had died during the invasion, but he had been hiding, waiting for a chance to fight back. Dr. Kim showed the general their greatest achievement yet, a testing chamber where they had built a prototype spacecraft the size of a small car. It had no windows, just metal walls covered in complex circuits. "This is what we call a jump ship," Dr. Kim explained. "It can teleport itself and everything inside it. No need for engines or fuel to travel, just coordinates and power for the quantum displacement field." General Park walked around the vessel, examining it carefully. "Can it carry weapons?" he asked. "It can," Dr. Jun Park said. "But more importantly, it can appear and disappear faster than any Volturian defense system can react. We've tested it. The jump takes less than half a second." General Park nodded slowly. "Then we need to build more. And we need pilots who can handle this kind of technology." In the months that followed, the Antarctic facility expanded again. Using teleportation, they could now instantly move building materials from abandoned human facilities to their hidden base. New chambers were carved into the ice, large enough to build and test more jump ships. Engineers who had once built satellites and aircraft now worked on jump drive technology. They created ships that could hold 2 or 3 people. Each ship looked simple from the outside, just a metal pod with no visible engines or weapons. But inside, they contained the most advanced technology humans had ever created. General Park selected 20 former fighter pilots who had survived the invasion. They had all flown combat missions before the Volturians came. Now they trained for a completely different kind of flying. "Forget everything you know about flight," he told them in their first training session. "These ships don't fly. They jump. You won't be dodging enemy fire. You'll be gone before they can shoot." The training facility was built in the largest ice cave. The ceiling was over 50 meters high, giving pilots room to practice short jumps. At first, many became sick after teleporting. The human body wasn't made to disappear and reappear somewhere else. Pilots reported dizziness, nausea, and confusion. "Your brain doesn't like what's happening," Dr. Kim explained to them. "It has no reference for teleportation, but you can learn to adapt." She was right. After weeks of training, pilots could jump their ships across the training chamber with precision. After months, they could perform multiple jumps in sequence, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Ju-Won was the best pilot. Before the invasion, she had flown rescue helicopters. She had natural talent for the jump ships, able to calculate positions quickly and handle the disorientation better than others. "It's like dancing," she told the other pilots. "You need to feel the rhythm of jump and pause, jump and pause." They created combat tactics unlike anything in human history. Ships would appear, fire conventional weapons, and disappear before the enemy could respond. They practiced jumping in formation, appearing around a target from multiple directions at once. General Park watched them with pride. "The Volturians think they conquered us," he said to Dr. Kim as they observed a training session. "They think they know everything about human capabilities, but they have no idea what's coming." In the rest of the world, Volturian control seemed complete. Admiral Krell had returned to the Empire's capital, leaving Earth in the hands of his commanders. Regular reports told him that mining quotas were being met and human resistance had been crushed. Not once did those reports mention unusual energy readings from Antarctica. Not once did they suspect that humans had developed technology beyond even Volturian understanding. Not once did they imagine that deep beneath the ice, a fleet of jump ships was preparing for the day Earth would strike back. 7 years passed under Volturian rule. What started as total defeat had slowly become an opportunity. Humans, once seen as simple laborers by their alien masters, were now everywhere in the Empire's operations. The Volturians needed workers for their mines, factories, and ships. They didn't realize that with each passing year, humans were learning, watching, and planning. Jin Lee had once been a computer programmer in Seoul. Now he worked in a Volturian communication center, fixing their systems when they broke down. The aliens never suspected that he memorized everything he saw. At night, he would draw detailed maps of Volturian technology and security systems. Once a month, these drawings would disappear, secretly teleported to the Antarctic base. Jin wasn't alone. Thousands of humans like him worked inside Volturian operations across Earth and beyond. Some had even been taken to work on space stations and colonies on other planets. The Empire had spread humans throughout their system like seeds, never imagining these seeds would grow into their destruction. "This information is priceless," Dr. Kim said as she reviewed the latest reports from their spies. She stood in the command center of the Antarctic base, which had grown into a small underground city. Large screens showed maps of Volturian bases and ships. "The more they use us, the more we learn about them." General Park nodded, studying a holographic display of the Volturian fleet positions. 7 years of patience is paying off. We now know more about their operations than they ever thought possible. The most important discovery came from a cleaner named Sun Young. She worked in a Volturian command post in what used to be Berlin. While emptying trash cans, she overheard 2 alien officers talking about system maintenance. She learned that the entire Volturian communication network depended on 7 synchronized hubs. These massive stations, positioned throughout their territory, kept all military and government communications connected. If these hubs go down, General Park explained to his officers, their entire command structure falls apart. They can't coordinate their ships or troops. Each Volturian base would be on its own. The Antarctic base had changed dramatically over the years. What began as a small research facility now stretched for kilometers under the ice. Hidden shipyards had been built in the largest caves, where engineers worked day and night constructing jump ships. Teleportation technology made building easier. They could instantly transport materials and tools from abandoned human factories around the world. 50 jump-capable vessels were now complete. Each ship was small, designed for 3 crew members, a pilot, a weapons officer, and a jump navigator. They looked simple from the outside, just smooth metal pods with no visible engines or weapons. But inside, they contained the most advanced technology ever created by humans. My son, the chief engineer, walked through the main shipyard checking the final preparations on the fleet. She had been an auto mechanic before the invasion. Now she supervised the construction of humanity's most advanced weapons. "All 50 ships are ready," she reported to General Park. "Jump drives are at full capacity. Weapons systems are installed and tested. We could launch tomorrow if needed." But ships alone weren't enough. They needed a perfect plan to strike all 7 communication hubs simultaneously, and they needed help from inside Volturian territory. Jin Lee had spent years building a network of human spies and saboteurs across the Empire. On Earth, these resistance members were factory workers, house servants, and maintenance crews. On Volturian space stations and colonies, they were cleaners, food servers, and repair technicians. The aliens never paid attention to these workers, which made them perfect spies. Jin worked from a small office in the Antarctic base. Maps covered his walls showing the locations of his agents. Red pins marked the 7 communication hubs where the attack would focus. Yellow pins showed the locations of his saboteurs ready to help when the time came. "Our people are in position at all 7 targets," Jin told Dr. Kim and General Park during their strategy meeting. "When we give the signal, they'll disable security systems, create distractions, and help our ships navigate inside the stations. The most difficult challenge had been communication. They couldn't risk the Volturians intercepting their messages. The solution came from Dr. Kim's team: quantum-linked devices that could share information instantly across any distance. Each sleeper agent had a small device hidden in their clothing or belongings. These devices could receive the signal to act without any detectable transmission. "One button press from here," Jin explained, "and all our agents will know it's time." The Antarctic base also served as a training ground for the pilots and crew who would fly the jump ships. They practiced for hours each day in simulators, preparing for the attack. The key to success would be perfect timing and coordination. Ju-1, now the commander of the jump fleet, led these training sessions. "We'll have one chance," she told her pilots. "We appear, strike, and disappear before they can respond. No heroics, no delays. Follow the plan exactly." The plan was complex but elegant. All 50 ships would jump simultaneously to positions near the 7 communication hubs. Teams of ships would attack each hub, appearing inside their defensive perimeters, where Volturian weapons couldn't target them effectively. They would fire on critical systems, jump to new positions, fire again, and repeat until the hubs were destroyed. Meanwhile, on each hub, human saboteurs would create chaos from within. Some would cut power to defensive systems. Others would seal doors to trap Volturian security forces. Some would even set fires and trigger alarms to confuse the alien commanders. "The Volturians have never faced an enemy that can teleport," General Park said. "Their entire defense strategy assumes they can see an attack coming. We'll be inside their stations before they know what's happening." 7 years of planning, building, and training were about to pay off. The date for the attack was set: July 7th, exactly 7 years after the invasion began, a fitting time for the 7 hubs to fall. The night before the attack, Dr. Kim walked through the underground base. People were busy everywhere: engineers making final adjustments to the ships, pilots reviewing their mission details, medical teams preparing for possible casualties. She felt a mix of pride and fear. Tomorrow would either be the beginning of Earth's liberation or the end of humanity's last hope. She stopped at a viewing port that looked out on the main shipyard. 50 jump ships sat in neat rows, their metal hulls reflecting the lights. They seemed so small against the might of the Volturian Empire. But she knew their power wasn't in their size or weapons, but in the element of surprise and the courage of their crews. 7 years, she whispered to herself. Tomorrow we'll see if it was enough. Across the galaxy, Admiral Krell sat in his palace on the Volturian homeworld, reviewing reports from Earth. Production quotas were being met. No significant resistance had been detected in years. Earth was considered one of the Empire's most stable conquests. He had no idea that in less than 24 hours, his perfect control would shatter completely. The night before the attack was quiet in the Antarctic base. Pilots tried to sleep, but most just stared at the ceiling, thinking about what would happen tomorrow. Engineers checked the jump ships one last time. Medical teams prepared beds for possible wounded. Everyone knew that the next day would change everything. Commander Supark couldn't sleep at all. She stood in the command center looking at the large map showing all 7 Volturian communication hubs spread across space. Each hub was a massive space station that kept the alien empire connected. If these hubs went down, the Volturians couldn't coordinate their ships or troops. "Are you ready?" General Topark asked, joining her at the map. "As ready as we'll ever be," she answered. "The ships are prepared. The crews know their targets. Our people inside the hubs are waiting for the signal." At 200 GMT, pilots and crews gathered in the launch chamber. 50 jump ships sat ready, their metal bodies gleaming under the lights. Commander Supark stood before them for a final briefing. "Today we take back our future," she said. "Remember your training. Jump in, strike, jump out. Don't stay in one place for more than 5 seconds. Trust your crew. Trust your ship." She checked her watch. "Board your vessels. We jump in exactly 57 minutes." The crews climbed into their ships. Each vessel had 3 crew members: pilot, weapons officer, and jump navigator. Inside, they strapped themselves into seats and began checking systems. In Jump Ship 7, pilot Ju-1 ran through her pre-jump checklist. Jump drive at full power. Weapons hot. Communication link active. We are ready, Commander. Similar reports came in from all 50 ships. In the command center, Dr. Kim and General Park watched as green lights appeared on their screen, showing each ship ready for the attack. At exactly 300 GMT, Commander Supark gave the order. All ships, jump now. In an instant, all 50 ships vanished from the Antarctic base. At the same moment, Jin Lee pressed a button, sending the signal to all human agents inside the hubs. The attack had begun. The 7 Volturian communication hubs were spread across their empire. The largest was near their homeworld. Others orbited conquered planets or floated in deep space. Each was heavily protected by defensive weapons and patrol ships. But those defenses were designed to stop attacks coming from outside, not enemies appearing inside their security perimeter. At Hub 1, orbiting the Volturian homeworld, the night shift workers were bored. Nothing exciting ever happened during night shift. The main controller, a Volturian officer named Draz, was half asleep at his post when alarms suddenly blared. "What's happening?" he shouted, jumping to his feet. "Unknown ships detected," another officer reported. They're inside our defensive grid." On his screen, Draz saw 7 small vessels that had appeared from nowhere. Before he could give orders, the ships vanished again. Then they reappeared in different positions, closer to the hub. "Impossible," Draz whispered. "How did they?" His words were cut short as the first explosions rocked the station. The human ships fired precisely at communication arrays and power systems before disappearing again. At the same time, humans working inside the hub sprang into action. A cleaner named Hyun locked security officers in their break room. A maintenance worker cut power to defensive systems. A food server triggered fire alarms to create confusion. This same scene played out at all 7 hubs simultaneously. Volturian commanders couldn't understand what was happening. Their sensors showed ships appearing and disappearing. Their weapons couldn't lock onto targets that vanished before firing. In Jump Ship 1, Commander Supark led the attack on Hub 4, the largest station. "Jump Point Alpha," she ordered her navigator. The ship instantly appeared near the hub's main power core. "Fire," she commanded. Her weapons officer launched 2 missiles that struck precisely where planned. The ship jumped away just as Volturian defensive fire reached their position. "Jump Point Beta," Supark ordered. They reappeared on the opposite side of the hub. Fire again. More missiles struck critical systems. Warning lights flashed across the hub as systems failed. Inside Hub 4, a Volturian commander frantically tried to contact other stations for help. "We are under attack. Unknown technology. Request immediate assistance." But his messages went nowhere. The same attack was happening at every hub, and communication between them was already failing. After 20 minutes of coordinated jumping and striking, the hub's defenses were crippled. Jump ships moved with perfect precision, never staying in one place long enough to be hit. Volturian officers had never seen anything like it. Their training had no answers for enemies that could appear anywhere at any time. "Hub 7 is down," came a report to Commander Park. "Hub 3 communications disabled," another voice called out. One by one, the 7 hubs fell into chaos. The Phantom Squadron, as the Earth fleet was named, executed their plan flawlessly. Ships jumped in perfect sequence, hitting targets then vanishing before the aliens could respond. When Volturian ships tried to help, they found themselves shooting at empty space or, worse, accidentally hitting their own stations as Earth ships disappeared just before impact. On Hub 4, Commander Supark's team had destroyed the main communication array. "Final target," she ordered. "Jump Point Omega." Her ship appeared directly beside the hub's central control room. Through the windows, she could see Volturian officers in panic. "Full weapons," she ordered. "Fire everything." Her ship unleashed its remaining missiles at point-blank range. The control room exploded in flames. "Jump home," she commanded. Her ship vanished just as the explosion reached them. Across Volturian territory, as the communication hubs failed, the Empire's control collapsed. Military ships lost contact with command. Governors couldn't receive orders. The perfectly organized empire suddenly couldn't function. This was the moment the human resistance had been waiting for. On Earth, in mines and factories, humans who had pretended to accept Volturian rule suddenly fought back. They had hidden weapons for years, waiting for this day. As alien overseers lost contact with their commanders, confused and isolated, humans overwhelmed them. On Volturian colonies and space stations, human workers sabotaged critical systems. Some took control of transport ships. Others freed fellow humans from labor camps. The carefully planned chaos spread across the Empire like wildfire. 3 hours after the attack began, all 7 communication hubs were either destroyed or under human control. The Phantom Squadron returned to Antarctica with minimal losses. Just 2 ships damaged and no lives lost. The control room erupted in cheers as the ships reported back. Commander Sue Park stepped out of her jump ship to find Dr. Kim waiting. "We did it," Sue Park said, removing her helmet. "All targets destroyed." Dr. Kim handed her a tablet showing reports coming in from across Earth and Volturian space. "It worked better than we hoped. Their entire command structure is in chaos. Resistance groups are taking control of cities. Some Volturian outposts are surrendering without a fight." For the first time in 7 years, humans were winning. The empire that thought it had conquered Earth was now fighting for survival, stunned by an attack they never saw coming and technology they didn't understand. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Volturians would regroup. Admiral Krell would not accept defeat easily. The real test was still to come. Admiral Krell was enjoying his morning meal when the message arrived. His personal servant, a nervous Volturian officer, entered his dining room with fear in his eyes. "What is it?" Krell demanded. "Sir, we have lost contact with all 7 communication hubs," the officer reported, his voice shaking. "Reports indicate they were attacked simultaneously. Earth forces used some kind of teleporting ships." Krell slammed his fist on the table, sending dishes crashing to the floor. "Impossible. Humans don't have such technology." More reports came in throughout the day. The entire Volturian command network had collapsed. Human resistance fighters had taken control of major cities on Earth. Volturian governors were being captured or killed. Some alien ships were even surrendering to human forces. "Prepare my flagship fleet," Krell ordered. "I will crush this rebellion myself." Across the galaxy, 10 massive Volturian battleships gathered. Each was the size of a small city, with weapons that could destroy continents. Together, they formed the most powerful fighting force in the Empire. Krell stood on the bridge of his flagship, his face dark with rage. "Set course for Earth," he commanded. "Maximum speed. We will make an example of these humans. No one defies the Volturian Empire and lives." Back on Earth, in the Antarctic base, General Park received news of Krell's approach. "Admiral Krell has assembled his flagship fleet," Jinli reported. 10 battleships headed directly for Earth. They will arrive in 6 hours. General Park nodded calmly. "Good. He's doing exactly what we expected." The human leaders gathered in the command center. Dr. Kim, Commander Sue Park, Captain Da Sung, and other officers stood around a holographic display showing the approaching Volturian fleet. "This is the moment we've been waiting for," General Park said. "Krell thinks he's coming to crush us. Instead, he's bringing his most valuable ships right to us." Captain Da Sung stepped forward. He was their best tactical planner, a former chess champion before the invasion. "We've prepared for this scenario for years," he said, pointing to the display. "When Krell's fleet enters Earth orbit, they will form a standard Volturian attack pattern. That's when we execute Operation Quantum Dance. The plan was bold but simple. The Phantom Squadron would jump directly into the middle of the Volturian formation. By appearing and disappearing between enemy ships, they would cause confusion and force the aliens to fire at each other. No fleet, no matter how powerful, could fight an enemy that could teleport anywhere at will. As Krell's fleet approached Earth, the Phantom Squadron prepared for battle. The 50 jump ships were refueled and rearmed. Crews checked their systems one final time. This would be the most dangerous mission yet, jumping between massive warships with planet-destroying weapons. Captain Dae Sung briefed the pilots personally. "Remember your training," he told them. "The quantum dance requires perfect timing. Jump in, fire, jump out. Never stay in one place for more than 3 seconds. Force them to target the space where you were, not where you are." Ju-1, still the best pilot, nodded. "We've practiced this 1,000 times. We're ready." 6 hours later, the Volturian flagship fleet arrived. 10 massive battleships moved into Earth orbit, forming their attack pattern. From his command ship, Admiral Krell prepared to launch attacks on major cities to break the resistance. "Begin bombardment of their largest population centers," he ordered. "Show these primitives the price of rebellion." But before the first shots could be fired, alarms blared across all 10 ships. "Multiple contacts," a Volturian officer shouted. They're inside our formation." The Phantom Squadron had jumped directly into the heart of Krell's fleet. 50 small human ships appeared between the massive battleships. They fired precision weapons at engines and weapon systems, then vanished before the Volturians could respond. "What is happening?" Krell demanded, watching as damage reports flooded in. "Where are they coming from?" The answer came in the form of more human ships appearing, this time on the other side of his fleet. They fired again, then disappeared. Volturian gunners, desperate to hit something, fired at the spaces where human ships had been. Their massive weapons instead struck other Volturian ships. Captain Dae Sung coordinated the attack from Jump Ship 10. "Group Alpha, jump to Position 1. Group Beta, Position 4. Fire and jump." His calm voice guided the Phantom Squadron through the complex dance. Human ships flickered in and out of existence around the Volturian fleet, appearing just long enough to fire, then vanishing. Confusion spread through the alien fleet. Volturian captains couldn't track the human ships. Some began firing wildly, hoping to hit something. Instead, they damaged their own vessels. Communication between ships broke down as each captain tried to deal with targets that appeared and disappeared at random. "Stop firing at shadows," Krell screamed into his communication system. "Coordinate your attacks." But it was useless. The human ships moved too quickly, jumping to new positions faster than the Volturians could track. For 45 minutes, the quantum dance continued. The Phantom Squadron jumped with perfect precision, never staying still long enough to be hit. Meanwhile, the massive Volturian ships, slow and clumsy by comparison, increasingly fired upon each other in their desperation. Ju-1 led a special team targeting Krell's flagship. Her jump ship appeared directly beside the massive vessel's engine section. "Fire everything," she ordered. Her weapons officer launched their remaining missiles at point-blank range. The explosions tore through the flagship's engines, leaving the massive ship drifting and powerless. Throughout the Volturian fleet, critical systems failed. Engines were disabled, weapon systems destroyed, communication arrays damaged beyond repair. The most powerful fleet in the Empire had been crippled without destroying a single human ship. From the Antarctic base, General Park opened a communication channel to Admiral Krell's flagship. "Admiral Krell," he said, his voice calm and measured. "Your fleet is disabled. Your empire is in chaos. You have one choice to make. Surrender now, or we will destroy every ship in your fleet." On his damaged flagship, Krell looked at reports showing his ship's conditions. 8 of 10 battleships had critical damage. His own flagship couldn't move or fight. For the first time in his long career, the Admiral faced defeat. "This is impossible," he whispered. "How could humans do this?" With no options left, Krell gave the order he never thought he would give. "All ships, cease fire. We surrender." News of Krell's surrender spread quickly across Earth and throughout the Volturian Empire. On planets the aliens had conquered, other species rose up against their weakened rulers. The empire that had stood for centuries began to crumble in days. 1 week later, representatives from Earth and the former Volturian worlds gathered on a neutral space station. General Park, Dr. Kim, and other human leaders sat across from Admiral Krell and the remaining Volturian High Command. "The Volturian Empire is finished," General Park announced. "In its place, we propose a galactic alliance of free worlds. Each planet governs itself. Trade and cooperation replace conquest and control." Dr. Kim added, "We will share jump drive technology with all worlds. No species will ever again have the power to dominate others as you once did." Admiral Krell, once the most feared commander in the galaxy, could only nod in agreement. The humans he had dismissed as primitives had defeated his empire with technology beyond even Volturian understanding. As ships departed the space station, carrying news of the new alliance to worlds across the galaxy, Earth celebrated its freedom. Cities lit up for the first time in 7 years. People danced in streets that had been under alien control just days before. In the Antarctic base, Dr. Kim looked up at a star map showing all the worlds now free from Volturian control. She thought about how the Empire's greatest mistake had been underestimating humanity. They had seen humans as simple primitives, never imagining that beneath the ice, a revolution was being born that would change the galaxy forever. The end.